Something big may be happening right now in the XRP market, and most investors are either ignoring it or completely missing it. While fear is spreading across crypto and many traders are convinced that the best days are behind us, there is another side to this story that deserves attention. The possibility of XRP falling below $1 is real, and that idea is making a lot of investors nervous. But what if that move turns out to be one of the biggest opportunities of this market cycle? What if the very price level that people fear today becomes the level they wish they had bought months from now? That is exactly what we're going to talk about in today's update. Welcome back to XRP Update, your home for the latest XRP news, market analysis, and developments shaping the future of digital assets. Before we move forward, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It helps this video reach more XRP holders and allows us to continue bringing you important updates every single day. Also, make sure you watch this video all the way until the end because some of the information we're covering today could completely change how you view the current XRP market and where it may be headed next. Right now, the crypto market is going through one of those periods that tests investors mentally and emotionally. When prices are rising, everyone feels like a genius. Social media is full of excitement, predictions are everywhere, and people rush into positions because they don't want to miss out. But when prices start dropping and markets move sideways for weeks or months, the mood changes dramatically. Suddenly, people begin questioning everything. They start wondering whether they made a mistake. They consider selling positions they once believed in strongly. This is exactly the type of environment we are seeing today. XRP has spent months dealing with pressure, uncertainty, and volatility, and many investors are reaching the point where patience is being tested. History shows that some of the most profitable opportunities appear when sentiment is at its worst. During previous market cycles, XRP experienced massive drawdowns before delivering explosive recoveries. Investors who only looked at short-term price action often missed those opportunities because fear convinced them that the asset would never recover. Yet time and time again, the market proved that major rallies often begin when the majority of participants have already given up. That doesn't guarantee future performance, but it does remind us that market psychology plays a huge role in investment decisions. The crowd is often most bearish near important lows and most bullish near important highs. One of the biggest topics right now is the possibility of XRP dropping below the $1 level. For many investors, that number carries psychological significance. A move below $1 would undoubtedly create headlines and trigger emotional reactions across the market. Some traders would see it as a sign of weakness. Others would view it as a buying opportunity. What's important is understanding the context. XRP has already experienced a substantial correction from its recent highs. If the price were to move into the 90-cent range, the percentage decline would be very similar to drawdowns seen in previous market cycles before major recoveries occurred. Again, nothing is guaranteed, but historical data suggests that large corrections have often been part of XRP's journey before significant advances. At the same time, we cannot ignore the broader economic environment. Global markets continue facing uncertainty related to inflation, energy prices, geopolitical tensions, and central bank policy. Investors across every asset class are trying to determine what happens next. Rising energy costs affect businesses, consumers, and governments alike. Inflation remains a concern, and financial markets are constantly adjusting expectations based on new economic data. These macroeconomic factors don't just impact stocks or commodities, they influence crypto markets as well. When uncertainty increases, risk assets often experience volatility, and that is exactly what we've been witnessing. Despite those challenges, institutional involvement in the digital asset space continues expanding. This is one of the most interesting developments happening behind the scenes. While retail investors focus on daily price movements, large financial players continue building infrastructure, creating products, and preparing for broader adoption. Access to crypto-related investment vehicles has increased significantly compared to previous cycles. More platforms, more services, and more financial products are becoming available. This doesn't mean prices move higher immediately, but it does indicate that the foundation supporting the industry continues to develop even during periods of market weakness. Another factor attracting attention is the growing number of XRP-related products and trading options entering the marketplace. Accessibility matters. The easier it becomes for investors and institutions to gain exposure to an asset, the greater the potential participation. Over time, increased accessibility can contribute to greater liquidity and broader awareness. Many long-term XRP supporters believe that institutional access represents one of the most important pieces of the puzzle for future growth. Whether those expectations ultimately prove correct remains to be seen, but the trend itself is difficult to ignore. Beyond trading activity, the XRP Ledger continues receiving attention for its potential utility in real-world applications. One area generating excitement involves the intersection of blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. As AI systems become more sophisticated, discussions about machine-to-machine payments are becoming increasingly serious. Imagine a future where intelligent software agents conduct transactions automatically, paying for services, exchanging value, and interacting across digital ecosystems without constant human involvement. If such a future develops at scale, the infrastructure supporting those transactions could become extremely valuable. This brings us to recent developments involving major companies exploring next-generation payment solutions. Ripple and the XRP Ledger continue appearing in conversations surrounding innovation in digital payments, tokenized value transfer, and emerging financial technologies. These developments matter because they move beyond speculation and focus on actual use cases. Investors often talk about utility, but utility becomes far more meaningful when real organizations begin experimenting with practical implementations. The long-term significance of these initiatives remains uncertain, but they demonstrate that development continues regardless of short-term market fluctuations. One of the most overlooked aspects of investing is understanding the difference between price and value. During bull markets, people often assume high prices automatically reflect value. During bear markets, they assume falling prices mean value has disappeared. In reality, those two concepts are not always connected. Markets can become irrational in both directions. They can push assets far above reasonable valuations during periods of euphoria and far below reasonable valuations during periods of fear. Successful investors often spend more time evaluating long-term potential than reacting to daily emotional swings. Technical analysts are also closely watching key XRP levels. Some market observers believe that resistance zones above current prices will determine whether XRP has already established a meaningful low. Others argue that another move lower remains possible before the next major trend begins. This disagreement is completely normal. Markets are driven by competing opinions, and nobody has perfect information. What matters is having a plan before volatility arrives. Investors who know their strategy ahead of time tend to make better decisions than those who react emotionally in the heat of the moment. If XRP does briefly move below $1, it would likely generate significant attention throughout the crypto community. Headlines would become more dramatic, social media would become more emotional. Some people would panic while others would become increasingly optimistic. This is why preparation matters. Whether you're bullish, bearish, or somewhere in between, having a clear framework for decision-making is essential. Emotional decisions often produce disappointing results because they are based on fear or excitement rather than analysis and discipline. For long-term XRP holders, the core question remains relatively simple. Has the long-term thesis changed? Many supporters argue that it has not. They point to ongoing development, expanding institutional interest, technological progress, and growing awareness of blockchain-based payment solutions. Critics continue raising concerns about competition, regulation, and adoption rates. Both perspectives deserve consideration. Intelligent investing requires examining both bullish and bearish arguments rather than focusing exclusively on information that confirms existing beliefs. The reality is that major opportunities rarely feel comfortable when they appear. If they did, everyone would take advantage of them. Markets are designed to test conviction. They challenge investors emotionally and financially. They create doubt at precisely the moments when confidence feels most difficult. Whether XRP ultimately revisits levels below $1 or begins recovering from current prices, the lesson remains the same. Investors should build their own strategy, perform their own research, and understand their own risk tolerance. Blindly following the crowd has never been a reliable path to success. As we look ahead, all eyes remain on key support and resistance levels, institutional developments, macroeconomic conditions, and continued growth across the XRP ecosystem. The coming weeks could prove extremely important for determining the next major direction of the market. One thing is certain: volatility creates both risks and opportunities. The investors who navigate these periods most effectively are often those who remain calm, stay informed, and avoid making decisions based purely on emotion. If XRP does fall below $1, it may not last long. And if history offers any lesson at all, it is that some of the biggest opportunities often appear when the majority of people are looking the other way. Stay focused, stay informed, and we'll continue bringing you every major XRP development right here on XRP Update.